almost at the finish line with my Scrappy stranded colorwork sweater that's inspired by alligator scoots, the armor that's on their bodies. And I wanted to check in and show you where I am and why I've made certain decisions. I'm also at the point where I need to pick up the stitches for the neckline. There's just a little bit of a trick to that. It's all about understanding your gauge in the areas where you're picking up. Hi, I'm Pamela from Fibersprite.com, and I help fiber artists understand what they need to know so they can get down to their real passion, actually working with fiber. I have 2 sleeves, and you'll notice that they are still on the needles. I want to attach the sleeves to the body before I decide on the final sleeve length. Them about a 3/4 sleeve length, just because I was tired of juggling the different colors with the body. It was knit 2 rows on a sleeve, knit 2 rows on the other sleeve, and then knit 2 rows on the body. And it was just getting really kind of stressful. I think it's totally possible that I could have made them full length based on how much yarn I have left over, but that's okay. In a previous video, I showed you how I cut the steeks for the armholes. So this was knit in the round, and that is a cut steek. So that part is done. So it's really ready for that seaming to happen. I was just waiting until I had finished knitting the rest of the body. And again, I still have the needles on the garment at the hem. So once I get the sleeves added on and the neckline done, then I can really put it on my body and see how I feel about the length and decide about the ribbing. So I'm going to show you real quick just how to calculate how to pick that up. It's just a real simple equation that uses your row gauge and your stitch gauge. Moment mugs are ergonomically designed so that you can use less force and less hand strength to hold your coffee mug. It's great for if your hands are sore or tired, and my favorite part is it saves my hand strength for knitting and spinning and weaving. You can get your own moment mug at momentmugs.com, as well as some custom moment mugs with knitting and weaving themed messages on them at my Etsy store. The links will be below. When we are picking up stitches, when we go across the horizontal line where there's a cast on or cast off edge, that's really easy. That's just 1-to-1. When we get to the vertical sections, that is a ratio of your gauge, your rows to the inch to your stitches to the inch. If you don't know this, a ratio of 3-to-4 is a good starting point. And then we also have this small little diagonal section that creates a little bit of a curve in the neckline. That's also going to be at a different ratio. As a general rule of thumb, when you're working with the vertical sections, you can pick up 3 stitches to every 4 rows. And then on the diagonal or curved sections, you would pick up slightly more. So you'd pick up 4 for every 5 rows. And then 1-to-1 on the completely horizontal section. If you have a funky gauge for whatever reason, some people tend to knit really tightly or really loosely, and that affects their row gauge, you might want to check and get a specific ratio. I'm going to start in that horizontal section. I'm going to start picking up and knitting at the back, since that will be a little bit less visible. I'm going to give myself a little bit of space and start 2 stitches in, and I think that that will just help me hide any of my mistakes or inconsistency. Weave in some ends, because there will be this end to weave in, and we're just going 1 for 1. So every stitch gets a knit or a purl, and I'm going to go all the way across. I have gone down a needle size for my ribbing. I've decided that I'm just going to pick up and knit the first row, the first round, because that's giving me a more consistent look. It's helping to hide those pickup stitches. And I'm also using a much smaller needle to do my pickup stitches. So the needle that I'm going to be knitting the ribbing with is a size 5 or 3.75 millimeter. And the smaller needle is 2 millimeters. So that is just making it really easy to scoop up those new stitches. There are really really a lot of different ways to pick up the stitches. There are some that work better than others. I'm finding on this particular sweater, the way that the stitches are, it's easier at this point on this horizontal line to be picking up from that bound off edge. And that's also giving me a nice crisp definition between the motifs and the border, so that's nice. I'm being really careful to not split stitches. It's probably hard to see because this yarn is so dark, but I felt that stitch really splitting, so I'm making sure to pick up a whole stitch each time. I've always said that really the only mistake that you can make in knitting is to split a stitch. The reason why that is a mistake and not a design choice is because it weakens the stitch. A split stitch is not going to be as strong on your garment. Over time, it's going to be the thing that wears out the fastest, especially on a sweater, something that, you know, you're moving around in. It's going to be subject to some abrasion. Those split stitches are your weakest links, and they're really quite preventable. You kind of feel it when it happens. It almost wants to snag, and it doesn't have that same elasticity because you've only picked up part of the stitch and the rest of the stitch is kind of lagging behind. So if you learn how to feel that, like right here, I've split a stitch. So I want to go and look at it carefully and make sure I'm picking up the whole stitch. All right, I am coming to the end of my horizontal easy section and I am on a diagonal. So as a rule of thumb, I'm going to pick up 4 stitches out of every 5. So that involves some counting to keep me on track. So we are here at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3. And then I see the next spot that I would pick up if I were picking up 1 to 1. I'm just going to skip the next one and then go into the following one. And now I'm going to check. It looks like I am pretty well into the vertical section now. So really I'm only picking up those 4 stitches. And then in the vertical section, I'm going to pick up 3 for every 4. And so what happens here is because knitting, each knit stitch is not square, you're getting a different ratio of stitches to the inch, which are going to grow out this way, as opposed to rows to the inch, which are going this way. And so you don't want your neckline to be baggy. It really just disappears, that stitch that you skipped. You really just don't even see it. If you're not getting the perfect ratio, it's really not that big of a deal because knitting is stretchy. And so you really just want to do your best. If anything, I tend to err on the side of not picking up as many stitches because knitting is stretchy and I don't want it to be saggy. I want it to be just really nice and crisp. So it looks like I am back into a diagonal section. So I'm going to count. I did 1, 2, 3, skip 1, pick 1 up. I'm going to count this as number 1. I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 1, and then I'm on the front. So we're still at 3 out of every 4. 1, and now I'm into that diagonal section. And it looks like I'm going to probably have 2 repeats of 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 1, and then I'll be well into that horizontal section that's going straight across. This is the moment where I regret dark yarn. It is quite hard to see this. I really feel like I picked up in the wrong spot there. I needed to be over here. So that's where I'm going to go. Not quite that far. You want to make sure that you're picking up in the same spot. So you want to be picking up that first row that's knit, and along these diagonal edges that gets a little bit wonky because you've got some decreases there that just sort of distort what you're seeing. Now we're at this horizontal edge and we're basically just going to repeat that same thing that we did going the rest of the way around. I'm going to take a quick break and we'll speed things up so that you're not bored to death. I'm at a diagonal, 4 for every 5. For some reason this feels different all of a sudden. That's totally normal for that to happen. I think it's just, you got used to looking at it one way and then all of a sudden it feels like it's changed. So just kind of be aware of that. Keep an eye on it. It's nothing to really worry about. If it really is bugging you, I'd suggest, getting up, stretching your legs, get a cup of tea, come back to it with fresh eyes. So that's 4. I'm going to skip 1. Okay, so we're back into that vertical section. So that's going to be 3 for every 4. And then we've got this short little diagonal section is our last hurrah. And we're going to pick up the rest of those. And then we will be ready to be done. Oh, ready to knit some more. Lucky me, that's matching up pretty nicely. Now I am ready to knit one, purl one all the way around. If I get to the end of the round and realize that I don't have the right number of stitches, I'll probably decrease one. It's always better for it to err on the side of being slightly fewer stitches because you want that to be nice and crisp, defined. The great thing about this is that it is a nice finish, and some of those areas where you might have had like a little stair step or kind of a crooked edge, this is going to smooth that over. Smooths your shaping over for your neckline, just makes a really nice finish. And some of the areas where I had a cast off, I kind of felt like I had a big gap, but that's actually going to go away as I knit a few rounds of this ribbing. So I will meet you back when I am ready to cast off. My preferred cast off for this is going to include a lot of grafting, and I know that that strikes fear into some people's hearts, but it really isn't something to be scared of. I'm going to show you my favorite bind off, which is the tubular bind off. It looks really nice. It looks very professional. It looks almost like a store-bought sweater. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.